Admiral Gina Park stared at the massive screen in the Coalition Command Center. Red dots showed where entire star systems used to be. Now there was nothing, just empty black space where millions of people once lived. How many this time? She asked quietly. Captain Minho Kim checked his tablet. His hands shook a little. 17 systems in the past week. The crystalline worlds are completely gone. The Luminari managed to evacuate 2 planets before. He stopped talking and just shook his head. Gina felt sick. The crystalline people had technology that could bend space itself. The Luminari could turn their bodies into pure energy. If creatures that advanced couldn't fight the Void Swarm, what chance did anyone have? The emergency meeting room buzzed with panic. Alien voices spoke in dozens of languages, but Gina didn't need a translator to understand the fear. Representatives from across the galaxy argued about where to run next. Not how to fight, just where to hide. "The Outer Rim is lost," announced High Commander Veltar, his blue skin pale with stress. "We must focus on saving the core worlds." Commander Sonali sat beside Gina, watching everything with sharp eyes. While the aliens panicked, she studied the attack patterns on her portable screen. She had been doing this for weeks now, looking for something everyone else missed. "There's a pattern," Sana whispered to Gina. "Look at which systems they hit first." Gina leaned over to see Sana's notes. The Void Swarm always attacked the most advanced civilizations first, the ones with perfect technology, the ones with thousands of years of scientific progress. Dr. Tae Yang, Earth scientist on the Coalition Council, slumped in his chair nearby. "They're not even discussing fighting anymore," he muttered. "Just how fast they can run." The meeting grew louder. A representative from the ancient builders, being so old they remembered when stars were young, spoke about abandoning everything beyond the galactic core. Half the galaxy, trillions of lives. "Unacceptable," Gina said, standing up. The room went quiet. Everyone looked at the human admiral. Most aliens still thought of Earth as a young, primitive world. They had only joined the Coalition 50 years ago. "Admiral Park," Veltar said carefully, "your species is brave, but you don't understand what we're facing. The Void Swarm isn't like any enemy we've ever fought. They exist partially outside our dimension. Our best weapons pass right through them." "Then maybe your best weapons aren't good enough," Gina replied. Shocked whispers filled the room. Some aliens looked angry. Others looked confused. Humans didn't usually speak this boldly in Coalition meetings. Sana stood up beside her admiral. "Permission to speak freely?" Veltar nodded, though he looked uncomfortable. "The swarm targets organized advanced civilizations first," Sana said, projecting her analysis onto the main screen. "They consume order, perfect technology, predictable patterns. But what if that's also their weakness?" Dr. Yang caught on first. "You think they have trouble with chaos?" "Earth's technology isn't perfect," Gina said. "Our weapons are crude by your standards. Our tactics are unpredictable. Maybe that's exactly what we need." The room erupted in protests. Advanced aliens explained why primitive human methods couldn't possibly work where their superior technology had failed. But Gina noticed something. The ones who had actually fought the swarm and survived weren't arguing. They were listening. An old warrior from the Talon Empire raised a clawed hand. "My ships engaged the swarm at Kepler Station. Most of my fleet was destroyed, but..." He paused, thinking. There was one human ship there, a cargo vessel with improvised weapons. It actually hurt them. "I thought it was luck." "Maybe it wasn't luck," Gina said. The meeting continued for hours. In the end, the Coalition made their decision. Full retreat to the core worlds. Abandon the outer territories. Let the Void Swarm have half the galaxy while they built stronger defenses around what remained. As the alien delegates filed out, talking quietly among themselves, Gina made her own decision. "Signal Earth Command," she told Captain Kim. "Tell them we're not retreating." "Admiral?" Kim looked confused. "The Coalition has ordered all forces to fall back." "The Coalition has ordered their forces to fall back," Sana corrected. "Earth never agreed to abandon the Outer Rim." Dr. Yang overheard them. You're talking about holding the Kepler defense grid. That's a suicide mission. Maybe, Gina admitted. But someone has to try something different. If we keep doing what hasn't worked, we'll just lose slower. Kim activated his communication device. This is going to cause problems with the coalition leadership. Let them complain, Gina said, looking back at the screen showing all those empty systems. Someone needs to make a stand. If humanity gets wiped out trying, at least we go down fighting instead of running. As news of Earth's decision spread through the coalition, reactions were mixed. Some called it noble, but pointless. Others whispered that humans were too young to understand the hopelessness of their situation. But in the darker corners of the galaxy, among survivors who had seen their perfect worlds consumed by impossible darkness, a few began to wonder if the crazy humans might actually have a point. 3 days after the coalition retreat order, humanity's offer shocked everyone. Earth's entire space fleet would hold the Kepler defense grid alone, the last barrier protecting the core worlds from the void swarm. They're going to die, whispered Ambassador Kethron to his aide. Brave, but completely pointless. Most alien observers agreed. Humans were still newcomers to space. Their technology was basic, compared to civilizations millions of years old. If the advanced races couldn't stop the swarm, how could Earth possibly succeed? Dr. Inho Choi didn't care what the aliens thought. He stood before the Coalition Science Council, showing his research on a large holographic display. The other scientists looked at him like he was crazy. Your weapons are too perfect, he explained, pointing at energy readings from failed alien attacks. Look at these scans. Void entities phase through your precisely calibrated energy beams. But here, he switched to data from human encounters. Our crude plasma weapons actually burn them. The luminary scientist flickered with confusion. Impossible. Your technology is primitive. Exactly, Inho smiled. Our fusion reactors aren't elegant. They're messy. They create electromagnetic chaos that might disrupt the swarm's dimensional phasing. Back at the human fleet assembly point, Admiral Gina Park addressed her commanders. Ships from Earth, Mars, the outer colonies, even converted cargo vessels, joined the formation. It wasn't much compared to the massive coalition fleets, but it was everything humanity had. Captain Yuna Seo raised her hand. Admiral, with respect, you're asking us to throw away everything we learned from coalition military training. No, Gina replied. I'm asking you to remember everything we knew before we met them. Commander Sana Lee activated a tactical display, showing human battle history. We've always been good at fighting enemies stronger than us. We adapt, we improvise. We do things that make no sense until they work. The room filled with nervous laughter. Everyone knew the stories. How humans had survived ice ages, plagues, and countless wars by refusing to give up when logic said they should. The Void Swarm expects organized resistance, Gina continued. Perfect formations, calculated attacks, predictable strategies. What if we give them something completely different? Dr. Inho's voice came through the speakers from the science ship. I've been studying their attack patterns. They consume order. They feed on predictable energy signatures. But chaos? Random patterns? That might actually hurt them. Lieutenant Min Park, the youngest officer present, spoke up. So we fight dirty? We fight human, Gina corrected. The plan was simple in its complexity. Forget textbook tactics. Trust. Instincts over computers. Use weapons that shouldn't work instead of ones designed to be perfect. Make the enemy guess instead of letting them calculate. Captain Min Ho Kim looked worried. The coalition thinks we're committing suicide. Maybe we are, Sana admitted. But if we're going to die, let's make it count. The human fleet moved toward Kepler Station. 12,000 ships of all sizes and types. Ancient destroyers from the First Colony Wars flew alongside modern cruisers. Mining vessels carried improvised weapons. Even civilian transports had been fitted with whatever guns they could mount. It looked like chaos to outside observers. The alien military advisors who remained to witness the battle shook their heads at the disorganized human formations. No discipline, muttered a Talon Empire observer. They'll be destroyed in minutes. But Admiral Park knew better. The apparent chaos was actually carefully planned randomness. Each ship captain had general orders but freedom to improvise. Wing, commanders could break formation whenever they felt like it. Weapons officers were told to trust their gut feelings over targeting computers. As the fleet approached the Kepler defense grid, long-range sensors detected the approaching void swarm, a wall of living darkness that had consumed everything in its path for months. All ships, Gina announced over the fleet communication system. Today we don't fight like the galaxy expects us to. We fight like humans have always fought. Desperate, unpredictable, and too stubborn to know when we're beaten. Captain Uniceo, now commanding the destroyer Soul's Pride, checked her weapons, kinetic railguns that fired chunks of metal instead of elegant energy beams, plasma cannons that sprayed superheated gas in wide, messy patterns, missile pods loaded with warheads that used old-fashioned chemical explosives. Primitive, she said with a grin. Just the way I like it. Dr. Yang monitored the approaching battle from the command ship. His instruments showed readings that made no sense according to coalition physics. Human technology was interfering with local space in ways that perfect alien equipment never did. Admiral, he reported, our reactors are creating exactly the kind of electromagnetic chaos that might disrupt their phasing ability. Good, Gina replied. Let's see how they handle a little human-style disorder. The void swarm grew larger on the screens, darkness that seemed to eat light itself. Behind the human fleet, the coalition's remaining forces watched from a safe distance, expecting to record humanity's noble but doomed last stand. They had no idea they were about to witness something that would change the entire war. Remember, Admiral Park told her fleet, when all else fails, humanity becomes the storm. The first void entities entered weapons range, and the battle for the galaxy's future began. The void swarm hit the human fleet like a black wave of death. Dark creatures that looked like living shadows moved through space, phasing in and out of reality. They had destroyed every fleet that faced them. Today should have been no different. But something unexpected happened. Captain Jin Park's destroyer, Soul's Pride, fired its first salvo of railgun rounds. Chunks of metal moving at incredible speed slammed into the void entities. Instead of passing harmlessly through like alien energy weapons, the kinetic rounds actually hit. Dark ichor sprayed into space as the creatures shrieked in frequencies that hurt human ears. Direct hit, shouted Weapons Officer Hana Yu. They're bleeding. Across the battle line, human ships opened fire with their crude weapons. Plasma cannons that alien engineers called primitive carved burning wounds through void creatures. Chemical explosive missiles that advanced civilizations had abandoned centuries ago tore holes in the enemy formation. The alien observers watching from a safe distance couldn't believe what they were seeing. Impossible, whispered the luminary representative. Their targeting systems are completely random. That was exactly the point. While alien ships used perfect computer calculations, human gunners trusted their instincts. They aimed where they felt the enemy would be, not where mathematics said they should be. The void entities, used to consuming orderly civilizations, found themselves confused by humanity's approach. Lieutenant Kai Lim piloted his fighter through gaps in the swarm formation that shouldn't have existed. His targeting computer screamed warnings as he dove straight into a cluster of void creatures, but Kai ignored the machine. He felt where the enemies would move next and fired his plasma bolts accordingly. 3 void entities dissolved under his attack. His wingman, pilot Nari Kim, whooped with joy over the radio. Did you see that? We're actually hurting them. Commander Sana Lee coordinated the battle from the command ship, watching patterns that defied military logic. Human ships broke formation whenever they wanted. Wing leaders made decisions based on gut feelings. Captains took risks that would get them court-martialed in any other navy. It was chaos. It was disorder. It was completely unpredictable. And it was working. Dr. In-ho Choi monitored the electromagnetic readings from his science station. Admiral, our weapons are disrupting their dimensional cohesion. Every time we hit them with chaotic energy patterns, they become more solid, more vulnerable. Keep it up, Admiral Gina Park ordered. All ships' storm protocol is now active. Forget everything you learned about proper tactics. Trust your instincts. Make them guess what we'll do next. The Void Swarm tried to adapt. They had learned to counter every other species' fighting style. The Crystalline Federation's perfect geometric formations, the Luminaries' synchronized energy attacks. The ancient builders calculated strategic withdrawals. But how do you counter chaos? How do you predict the unpredictable? Captain Do-Hyun Kang commanded the heavy cruiser Busan Hammer. When his sensors detected a massive void cluster forming to attack the human left flank, he made a decision that violated 3 laws of physics and every rule of space combat. He dove straight into the enemy formation while overcharging his fusion reactor to critical levels. "Kang, what are you doing?" Sana's voice crackled over the radio. "Pull back." "Trust me," Do-Hyun replied, pushing his engines past redline. "I have a feeling about this." The Busan Hammer plunged into the heart of the void cluster. Alarms screamed as the reactor approached meltdown. At the last second, Do-Hyun triggered an emergency core dump, releasing all that chaotic fusion energy directly into the enemy formation. The explosion lit up space like a new star. When the light faded, the entire void cluster was gone. Not just destroyed, completely disrupted, their dimensional phasing abilities scattered across local space. "Impossible," Dr. Yang breathed, staring at his readings. "That explosion created a localized chaos field. The void entities can't phase through it." Other human captains saw what worked and adapted instantly. Captain Yuna Seo deliberately overloaded her plasma cannons to create unstable energy bursts. Lieutenant Min Park used his ship's damaged reactor as a weapon, spraying uncontrolled radiation that made the void creatures writhe in apparent pain. The battle raged for hours. Human ships that should have been destroyed in minutes kept fighting, with damaged hulls and failing systems. They patched wounds with spare parts and prayer. They fired weapons that were falling apart. They flew formations that existed only in the moment. For the first time since the war began, Void Swarm forces actually retreated from a battlefield. "They're running," Captain Jin Park reported, his voice filled with amazement. "The void creatures are actually pulling back." The alien observers could barely speak. The Talon Empire warrior who had survived the earlier Kepler battle finally found his voice. "How? How did primitive weapons succeed where our most advanced technology failed?" Dr. Inho had the answer. "They consume order, perfect energy signatures, predictable patterns. But chaos? Random electromagnetic interference, uncontrolled fusion reactions. That's like poison to them." Admiral Park opened a channel to the entire human fleet. Her ships were battered, her crews exhausted, but they had done the impossible. "All ships, excellent work. Signal Earth Command the Kepler defense grid holds and send a message to the Coalition." She paused, watching the retreating void swarm on her screens. "Tell them we've figured out how to hurt these things." News of humanity's victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. What had seemed impossible was now undeniable. Humans weren't just surviving against the void swarm. News of humanity's victory at Kepler spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communication. Species that had given up hope, suddenly, found themselves asking the same question. How did the humans do it? Admiral Gina Park stood before a room full of alien military officers. Representatives from dozens of species had come to learn about human tactics. Most looked skeptical. Some appeared desperate enough to try anything. "You want us to fight randomly?" asked General Thexvar, his insect-like features clicking with confusion. "This goes against millions of years of military science." Captain Nari Kim stepped forward with a holographic display. "Not randomly, unpredictably. There's a difference." The display showed human fleet movements during the Kepler battle. To alien eyes, it looked like complete chaos. Ships breaking formation, attacking from impossible angles, using weapons in ways they weren't designed for. "We call it adaptive combat response," Nari explained. "Each ship captain makes decisions based on intuition rather than pre-planned strategies. The void swarm can't predict what we'll do because we don't know ourselves until we do it." A luminary. Observer flickered nervously. "But how do you coordinate? How do you prevent your own ships from attacking each other?" Dr. June Lee smiled. That's where it gets interesting. He activated another display showing the quantum consciousness network that connected human crews during battle. Thin lines of light linked every human ship in the fleet, creating a web of shared awareness. We discovered that human consciousness can be quantum entangled, June explained. Not our thoughts exactly, but our intuitive responses. When one captain feels an enemy attack coming, every other captain in the network feels it too. Instantly, faster than light-speed communication. The alien officers looked horrified. The ancient builder representative spoke first. "You're weaponizing your own minds?" "We're using what makes us human," Admiral Park corrected. "Other species rely on perfect calculations and advanced AI. We trust our gut feelings. And it turns out gut feelings can be shared." Captain Minho Kim brought up tactical reports from recent battles. After Kepler, human forces had gone on the offensive. The Void Swarm, which had consumed star systems with terrifying efficiency, now avoided human-controlled space entirely. The Centauri liberation took 3 days, Minho reported. 6 human ships against a void cluster that had destroyed an entire crystalline battle fleet. We didn't lose a single vessel. "How?" demanded the Talon Empire observer. Lieutenant Min Park answered from her position at the display controls. "They kept trying to phase through our attacks, but we weren't attacking where they expected. Our weapons fired at empty space, but somehow, the void entities materialized right into our line of fire." "Impossible," muttered several alien voices. "The quantum network lets us feel where they're going to be," explained Dr. Inho Choi, joining the briefing via hologram from his research ship. "Human intuition operates on quantum levels we don't fully understand yet. When connected through the network, we can sense dimensional shifts before they happen." Admiral Park activated a galaxy-wide tactical display. Red zones showed areas still controlled by the Void Swarm. Blue zones indicated human-liberated space. The blue was spreading. "We're not just holding the line anymore," she announced. "We're pushing them back, but we need help." The alien officers shifted uncomfortably. Asking for help was one thing. Actually, trusting human methods was another. Commander Sana Lee stepped forward. "We know our tactics seem crazy to you. They seem crazy to us sometimes. But they work, and we're willing to teach anyone brave enough to try." A young Zephyrian pilot raised her crystalline hand. "What would you need from us?" "Open minds," Sana replied. "The ability to ignore your computers sometimes. The courage to make decisions without knowing if they're correct." Captain Uniseo added, "Most importantly, you need to accept that losing control might be the only way to win." The briefing continued for hours. Some alien species decided to try integrating human advisors into their fleets. Others remained convinced that their traditional methods would eventually work, but word had already spread to the front lines. Desperate ship captains who had seen their perfect strategies fail were quietly requesting human tactical officers. Pilots who had survived impossible battles by following human wing leaders wanted to learn the new fighting style. Lieutenant Kai Lim reported from the liberated Vega system. "Admiral, we've got volunteers from 17 different species asking to join the next assault. They want to learn Storm Protocol firsthand." Dr. Yang monitored the quantum network expansion from Earth. "The consciousness link is adapting to non-human minds. Slowly, but it's working. Alien crew members are starting to tap into the intuitive awareness." "Side effects?" Admiral Park asked. "They're starting to think more like humans," Yang admitted, "making decisions based on feelings rather than pure logic. Some of their superiors aren't happy about it, but they're surviving battles that should kill them," Captain Jin Park added from his position with the mixed species fleet. Hard to argue with results. The transformation was spreading. Human tactical advisors worked alongside alien crews, teaching them to trust instincts over instruments. Species that had relied on perfect technology for millennia learned to embrace controlled chaos. The Void Swarm, faced with an enemy that defied all their adapted strategies, began a general retreat toward the Galactic Rim. For the first time since the war began, they were the ones running scared. Admiral Park looked at the strategic display showing their progress. Half the galaxy was still dark, but the light was growing. "Signal all fleets," she ordered. Phase 2 begins tomorrow. Time to take the fight to them. 6 months after the victory at Kepler, the final battle was about to begin. The Void Swarm had retreated to the edge of the galaxy, where dimensional rifts opened into their home realm. Intelligence reports suggested they were preparing for one last massive attack. Admiral Gina Park stood on the bridge of the command ship, staring at readings that made no sense. The rifts were growing larger. More void entities poured through, every hour. If they launched another invasion, even human tactics might not be enough to stop them. "We have to seal those rifts," Dr. Junli said, his voice tight with worry. "It's the only way to end this war permanently." The plan was the most dangerous mission in galactic history. Someone had to fly into interdimensional space itself and collapse the barriers between realities. The mathematics were impossible. No computer could navigate conditions where physics itself broke down. "The Coalition Science Council says it can't be done," reported Captain Minho Kim. "Their best AI systems crashed just trying to model the dimensional instabilities." "Good thing we're not relying on AI," Admiral Park replied. Dr. Yoonji Yoon monitored the quantum consciousness network from her station. The mental link between human crews had evolved over months of combat. What started as shared intuition had become something deeper, a collective awareness that could process impossible information. "The network is ready," she reported. "We can link every human consciousness in the volunteer fleet. Create a group mind that might be able to navigate dimensional chaos." The volunteer fleet was smaller than previous human forces, only 5,000 ships. Every crew member had volunteered knowing they probably wouldn't come back. Captain Do-Yun Kang commanded the lead squadron, his heavy cruiser Incheon's Defiance fitted with experimental dimensional shields. "All ships report ready," he announced, over the fleet communications. "Quantum network is active and stable." Lieutenant Hana Yu felt the mental connection activate. Suddenly she could sense not just her own ship, but every vessel in the fleet. 5,000 individual crews became one vast consciousness, sharing thoughts and instincts across impossible distances. "It's beautiful," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. The collective awareness was like nothing any human had ever experienced. The alien observers watched from safe positions far behind the human fleet. Even species that had learned to work with human tactics considered this mission pure suicide. "They're actually going to try it," whispered the Luminari representative, "flying into interdimensional space with nothing but intuition to guide them." Admiral Park opened the final communication channel. "All ships, this is it. We're going. Somewhere no one has ever been and survived. Trust the network. Trust each other. Trust the chaos." Captain Jin Park's destroyer was first through the dimensional barrier. Reality twisted around his ship as they entered space where normal physics didn't apply. His instruments went crazy, showing readings that contradicted each other. But through the quantum network, he could feel where to go. The collective human consciousness treated interdimensional chaos like just another tactical challenge. Where individual minds would have been driven insane, the networked awareness adapted and navigated. Thousands of human intuitions working together created a map through impossible space. "Rift generators located," reported Lieutenant Min Park from deep inside the dimensional maze. "But there's something else here, something big." The source of the Void Swarm waited in the space between dimensions. A massive entity that fed on order and reality itself. It had been using the rifts to consume entire universes for millions of years. "That's their queen," Dr. In-Ho Choi realized, studying the readings through the network connection. "Destroy her, and the whole swarm dies." But fighting in interdimensional space was different from normal combat. Weapons that worked in regular reality barely functioned here. The entity could phase between dimensions at will, avoiding most attacks. "Commander," Sana Lee had an idea that terrified even her. "What if we don't try to fight her? What if we become her worst nightmare?" "What do you mean?" Admiral Park asked through the network link. "She feeds on order, on predictable patterns. So let's give her pure chaos. Every ship, overload your reactors, simultaneously. Create the biggest, messiest energy explosion possible." Captain Unisio understood immediately. A chaos bomb. every fusion reactor in the fleet releasing energy in completely random patterns. "It'll probably kill us all," warned Dr. Yang from his monitoring station. "We knew that was likely when we volunteered," Do-hyun replied calmly. "At least this way, we take her with us." The human fleet converged on the entity's position. 5,000 ships pushing their reactors past every safety limit. The quantum network coordinated the timing while keeping each ship's energy output completely unpredictable. "All ships, prepare for reactor overload," Admiral Park commanded. "It's been an honor serving with you all." The explosion lit up interdimensional space like a newborn star. Pure chaotic energy struck the void entity directly. The creature that had consumed countless realities screamed as the random patterns tore through her ordered existence. When the light faded, she was gone. The dimensional rifts began collapsing. The surviving human ships fled back to normal space as the barriers between realities sealed themselves. Only half the volunteer fleet made it home, but they had done the impossible. The void swarm, cut off from their source, began dissolving across the galaxy. The war was over. In the months that followed, the galaxy changed forever. Humanity established the Academy of Adaptive Warfare, where alien species learned to embrace controlled chaos. The final lesson Admiral Park taught her mixed classes of cadets became legendary across the stars. When all else fails, don't think harder, think differently. Sometimes the answer isn't in your calculations, but in your willingness to throw them away and trust in the storm. The galaxy had learned that perfect order wasn't always the answer. Sometimes you needed to become the chaos you feared.